Welcome, everybody, to the Ahead of the Curve podcast. So, just doing some quick episodes to answer frequently asked questions about taxes, tax planning, filing, and all that. So, today, Micah is going to answer one for us. Micah, what is the deadline for individual filing?
For most people, it's going to be April 15th. For most people in most years. Similar to what we said on the corporate deadline and video on extensions, if the 15th falls on a Saturday, it's typically going to go to the next Monday, unless that next Monday happens to be that DC holiday that I always forget the name of, at which point it'll be the next day. But typically it's going to be April 15th for the majority of taxpayers. There's some special exceptions if you're military and or in a combat zone. And also another one, I think you get a 2-month automatic extension if you're living overseas. But for, again, 99% of people, it's going to be April 15th for most years.
Okay, so why is it so that's even if you have an LLC or an S corp, it's still April 15th, which is the same as the C corp deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. So they make the S corps and partnerships; those are due a month earlier. And if you file for a 6 month extension, those are going to be so. For an individual, you can apply for a 6 month extension to get you to October 15th. But of course, you need your S corp and partnership return done to be able, if you have one, to file that. So those returns on the entity side, if you file an extension, are due September 15th. So you've got a month in between to actually get your individual return
Okay.
done. So same as we said on if there's any tax on an entity return, these are extensions to file, not extensions to pay. And the extension really does help you when it comes to any penalties you would have, but you do need to pay the full balance due if at all possible, because without an extension, the penalty is 5% per month. With an extension, it's 0.5% per month. So that cuts that down dramatically, but there still are penalties associated with it. So if you think you're going to owe, try to make that payment prior to the April 15th deadline.
And so you need to also have the extension filed before the deadline for the personal.
Yes, exactly. Same as we said
Same
before.
principle
If
apply.
Same principle. If you can't file an extension in May or June or July, it has to be done before that original April 15th deadline. Even if you file it a day late, they're going to reject it, or at least then you're not getting an automatic extension. You'd have to go and try to get a manual extension from the IRS proving you had some sort of extenuating circumstances. So again, they don't really like to give those. You've got to prove that there was a reason for that. So just file the extension prior to the April 15th deadline. It's automatic and it'll give you a full 6 months.
Okay, and so quick question on that. So you talked about there's the 5% penalty per month, right, with the corporate if you don't file the extension, and it's a 0.5% penalty per month if you do file the extension and you didn't pay, right?
Yeah, and that's on the individual side. That's for C corps and individuals.
Okay. So
For
that's
for
so
part
if you didn't file, would you then have a combined 10% penalty
well,
on
it's
both?
on it depends on the makeup of your like if you had a C corp that owed money and an individual return that owed money, then yeah, both of them would be getting charged 5% if you didn't have an extension. For flow through entities that have their own returns like partnerships or S corps, there's I think this year it's $220 per officer per month the return is late, retroactive to the original March deadline.
Got it.
So if you had an S corp, that doesn't have its own tax on the federal side, at least. So you'd be getting hit with $220 per officer of the company, plus then 5% on whatever the ultimate tax was on your individual side. So
Okay.
extensions are very, very easy to file. It
There's
probably
no
takes
reason
5
not to
minutes
do
or
it.
less. So
There's no
just do
reason
it.
not
Really,
to.
just please do it.
Right.
There's no real downside to them.
No, that's great. And I think that the other thing to note about that is that one, the flow throughs are different than, a C corp, which then you'd be getting that's another it sounds to me like another example of double taxation that can come with a C
Yeah,
corp, right?
yeah.
But that's if you're not paying what you estimate that you would owe, or if you do owe something. So huge savings if you do owe something and you need to file the extension. And of course, even if you can't pay all of it and you pay some of it, at least that really reduces that quite a bit.
Right. People look at it as if it's this I'm gonna owe $20,000 and I don't have it, but they might have $10,000. And if that's not going to destroy their cash flow with running the business, you're going to be cutting those penalties down pretty significantly. So make a payment of ideally the full amount, but if not, at least what you can afford.
Perfect. No, great advice as always. Appreciate it, and look forward to having more of these types of questions answered in the next episodes.